Everyone suffers from police misconduct. Although we deal with our constitutional rights being violated, innocent citizens being arrested, and constant harassment, we sit and do nothing about it. You may be asking, what can I do? Did you know that you may have potentially left hundreds of thousands of dollars floating in the air? Yes, you may have had the rights that you didn't know you have violated. Having your rights violated is more than being abused by the police. Did you know that when you are stopped by police, there is a 75% chance that one of your constitutionally protected rights were violated? The United States Supreme Court have made several rulings making even the smallest of violations by police unconstitutional. Do you know what these violations are? My name is Abaya Israel, and I'm a former police officer and a former sheriff deputy. I want you to download my free ebook and register to take my online video course titled Surviving the Police, so you can learn your constitutionally protected rights. The next time a police officer violates your rights, you will be aware and alert and able to fight back the legal way. Don't be that person who was taken advantage of and you never received compensation because you were unaware. Register for my online video course today, so if you are unjustly targeted by police, you will be compensated. It's time to help put an end to police misconduct. Register today at WeThePeopleUniversity.com.
Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Paraben-free, peace with care. For beard mousse, armpit mousse, or jock mousse, visit Shalom Care. ForYou2You.com. Shalom Care.
Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this platform by individuals, callers, or invited guests are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with the brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send me a donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom. You're now tuning in to Debate Talk for You Radio. I am Gabbar Alaha, and this is the Sabbath Meal, episode 29. Today, we were going to be getting into Bible translations which one is accurate? Bible translations, which one is accurate? Before I begin, I just want to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh and the authority of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who was commonly called Jesus Christ. And to everyone tuning in now, whether it was live or on the playback, may Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. Once again, special shout out to Sal Showtime for allowing us to do our thing here on Debate Talk for You. So you guys see the information scrolling down at the bottom. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, donate to the platform. So that way you guys can be up to date on what goes on here on Debate Talk for You. So once again, today, Sabbath Meal, episode 29, going to be getting into Bible translations, which one is accurate. Why am I going into this? Just to kind of wrap up the series that I've been doing with regard to what is scripture. Now that we understand what a scripture is, let's try to understand these Bible translations that are actually out here. Okay. So I'm just going to be going over that today. Don't plan to hold you guys for too long, but I do have a lot of information to share with regard to the Bible translation. Just going to give some general overview on the Bible translations that are out there and which one is actually accurate. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me pop this screen back in here real quick. All right, here we go. And let me flip over here so that way we can get things going. All right. So here we go. Bible translations. Which one is accurate? All right, so now I'm going to kick this off by actually going through all the Bible translations that we have available, okay? All the different Bible translations that are actually available. And these are going to be in alphabetical order, okay? So now we're going to be dealing with complete Bible translations. So as you see here, we got the 365 Day Bible, and that's the abbreviation for it. It's modern like English. It was released or published in 2020. And it's a modern revision of the World English Bible. Okay. So now moving on, we got American Standard Version, also modern English, published in 1901. The sources that they used was the Masoretic text and the Westcourt and Hort 1881 and Tregelles 1857. So these are the manuscripts or the sources that they use to help aid the translation that they have for this particular version. So this one is from 1901. We have the Amplified Bible, modern English. So they published one in 1987, and then they published another one in 2015. And this is a revision of the American Standard Version. Okay. So it's it's a revision of the American Standard Version. So this is just another revision of the ASV Bible, which is up here, that was released in 1901. Okay. An American translation. This one was released in 1935. Masoretic text is the source, and various Greek texts, as well as for this one that was released in 1976. All right. So now moving on. All right, the Berean Study Bible, modern English, 2016, Masoretic text, and various Greek texts. This Bible was actually released by Bible Hub. Now I know a lot of people that study scripture, they use Bible Hub. The Berean Study Bible is actually Bible Hub's published Bible. Okay, that is their published Bible, is the Berean Study Bible. Okay, you got the Berkeley version, which was released published in 1958. The Bible in Living English, which was published in 1972, and this is more of a Jehovah's Witness Bible. Okay, you have the Bishop's Bible, which is early modern English. This one was released in 1568, so this actually predates what is known as the King James 1611. This actually predates it. And their sources that they used was the Masoretic text and the Textus Recepticus. Okay, so these are the manuscripts that were used: Masoretic text and Textus Recepticus. Okay, and the Anglican and the Calvinist and the Presbyterian, they use this Bible. Okay, you got the Children's King James Version, which is a revision of the King James Version that was released in 1962 by J.P. Green. All right, moving on. We have the Christian Community Bible, modern unlike English, released in 1988. The sources that they used were Hebrew and Greek, and it's an English version of the Biblia Latino-Americana, translated by I forget what the FR stands for when you read the names. Bernardo Perrault. All right, this is primarily used in the Roman Catholic Church. Christian Standard Bible, released in 2017. I actually used to have this Bible whenever I was living in Texas. I got it for free from the doctor's office out there because I was in the Bible Belt. And the sources that of this translation is the Biblia Hebraica, the Shirtagar-Tenzia, the Novorum Testamentum in Greece, which is the 28th edition of the United States, which is the 28th edition. And they also use the United States Society's fifth edition. Okay. And the New Christian Standard Bible is a major revision of the 2009 edition of the Holman Christian Standard Bible. All right. And it's primarily used by Southern Baptists. Hence the reason why I got it for free whenever I was in Texas. Okay. So now we have the Clear Word Bible, released in 1994. With this is primarily used by the Adventists and Seventh-day Adventists. The Common English Bible, released in 2011. You have the Complete Jewish Bible, which was released in 1998, and it's a paraphrase of the Jewish Publication Society of America, Old Testament, and from the Greek, the New Testament. And this is used by Messianic Judaism. Okay. We have your Contemporary English Version, which was released in 1995 or published in 1995. And this is from the Protestant Church. One of my children's Bibles that I have that actually has melanated people in the book. It's actually a Contemporary English Version. You guys can check back on one of the Sabbath meal shows that I did when I was going over the review on children's books. I actually had showcased that particular Bible, which is a Contemporary English Version. Okay. You also have a Concordant Literal Version, which was published first in 1926, and then it was revised in 1931, as well as in 1966. And so the source is the restored Greek syntax. A concordance of every form of every Greek word was made and systematized and turned into like English. The whole Greek vocabulary was like analyzed using a standard English equivalent for each Greek element. Okay. Now you also have the Coverdale Bible, which was really first published in 1535. Okay. Once again, it predates King James Bibles. Okay. So you have a few Bibles that came before King James. Okay. So now, of course, their sources are the Masoretic text of the Greek New Testament of like Erasmus, the Vulgate, the Latin Vulgate rather, and German and Swiss Bibles. Okay, which is the Luther Bible, the Zurich Bible, and the Leo Judge Bible. So the first complete Bible printed in English. This was the very first complete Bible printed in early modern English, which was in 1535. Okay. It was the Coverdale Bible. Okay. Yeah, that was the first complete Bible printed in early modern English. Okay. Which was in 1535 once again. Okay. So now you have the CTS, the New Catholic Bible, which was released in 2007. And it's just a revision of the New Jerusalem Bible, which the Roman Catholics and the Anglicans use. You have the Darby Bible, which was released in 1890, which is their sources is the Masoretic text and various critical editions of Greek texts, which are the Tregelles, the Trissendorf, and Westcott and Hort. All right. So now this Bible version is now public domain due to copyright expiration, and it's not associated with any church. Okay. Because of the short version of the title of the Darby Bible, which is New Translation, it is often confused with a translation done decades later by the Jehovah's Witnesses the organization named the New World Translation. Okay. All right, moving on. We have the Divine Name King James Bible, which was released in 2011, and their sources are Masoretic text and the Textus Recepticus. So it's an authorized King James version which restores the divine name Jehovah to the original text in 6,973 places, and Jah in 50 places. And Jehovah also appears in parentheses in the New Testament wherever the New Testament cross references a quote from the Old Testament in 297 places, totaling to 7,320 places. And this one is actually used in Messianic Judaism. Okay. The Dohirines Bible, which was released first in 1582, which was the New Testament only. And then the Old Testament came in between 1609 and 1610. All right. And of course, they use Latin manuscripts as well as Greek and Hebrew manuscripts. And this is a public domain, it's primarily used by the Roman Catholic Church. All right. Another version of the Dohirines Bible was released in 1752. And the source for this is the Clementine Vulgate. So you have different Vulgates. You have a Latin Vulgate, then you have the Clementine Vulgate. All right, and this is also public domain due to copyright expiration, primarily used by the Roman Catholic Church. Easy English Bible. This was released in 2018. The Masoretic text and the Nestle Novum Testamentum Grace is the source for this translation, translated by Mission Assist. Okay. And then you have the easy to read version, which was released in 1989, and the Textus Recepticus, as well as the United Bible Society Greek text, and the Nestle Aland text. So I'm going through all these translations. There's quite a bit. So we're going to be going through a lot of these translations just to kind of give you guys the information on what manuscripts were used for these translations. Okay. And then we're going to dive into which one is more accurate, which one isn't, which one should you use, which one you shouldn't use. I'll share the ones that I personally use in my studies and so on. Okay. All right. So moving on. So again, we got a lot of information to cover with regard to the different Bible translations. So I wanted to kind of go ahead and showcase the ones that I saw that I could get information on, that way you guys can have the information to know, okay, when I'm looking at a certain translation, I know what a manuscript is being used, or if a manuscript was even used at all, and so on and so forth. Okay. So moving on. All right. So we have the Emphasized Bible, which was published in 1902. And this is translated by Joseph Bryant Rotherham based on the New Testament in the original Greek, and Christian David Ginsburg. Okay. Also, you have the Mesoritoco critical edition of the Hebrew Bible, which was published in 1894. And it uses various methods such as emphatic idiom and special diacritical marks to bring out nuances of the underlying Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic text. Okay. And the Churches of Christ actually use this Bible. The English Standard Version, the ESV, this has become a very popular one, even amongst Hebrews. Modern English was released in 2001, and then they revised it in 2007, 2011, and 2016. And it's derived from the 1971 edition of the Revised Standard Bible version text. Let me read that again. Derived from the 1971 edition of the Revised Standard Version text, based on the Biblica Hebraica Starchagensia, which was the 5th edition of 1997. Another source is also the USB Greek New Testament, which was the 5th which was the 5th corrected edition, and the Novum Testamentum Grace. This was the 28th edition, released in 2012. Okay, so now this is a very popular version that's become popular amongst Christians today, as well as some like Israelites. Okay, they've been using the ESV. So what it does is it adheres to an essentially literal translation philosophy, attempts wherever possible for the Old Testament to translate difficult Hebrew passages as they stand in the Masoretic text, rather than resorting to like emendations or to finding an alternative reading in the ancient versions. All right, it's primarily used by Calvinists and Presbyterians. All right, so now the English Standard Version, the Catholic edition, was released in 2018, and it's a revision of the ESV with the deuterocanonical books. All right, so it's probably going to have like your Apocrypha in it and some of the things in there. Okay, and this is used by the Roman Catholic Church once again. So now the Evangelical Heritage Version, released in 2019, is primarily used by Lutheran and Evangelical Protestants. All right, and then you have the Expanded Bible, released in 2011, and the base text is a modified version of the New Century Version, and it offers alternative translations alongside the main translation. Okay. Now, again, there's a lot of translations out there. There's tons of Bible translations out there. Okay, so just want to share the information so that way you guys can know what's what. Okay. Um, Frere Fenton Bible, which is a modern English translation, was released in 1903, and its sources they use for that translation is the Masoretic text and the Westcott Hort. Okay, this is for the New Testament. Okay, the Geneva Bible, released in 1557 for the New Testament, and then it became complete in 1560 with the Old Testament. They use Masoretic text and the Textus Receptus. So it's the first English Bible with whole of Old Testament translated direct from Hebrew text. And this was used by the Puritans. All right, so God's Word translation, all right, which was released in 1995. This is primarily used by the Lutherans and Christian churches. The Good News Bible, published in 1976, came from the United Bible Society's Greek text, and is formerly known as Today's English Version. That's what it used to be called, but now they changed the name to the Good News Bible. The Great Bible, which was released in 1539, the sources that they use are the Masoretic text, the Greek New Testament of like Erasmus, and the Vulgate and the Luther Bible. All right, primarily used by the Roman Catholic and the Anglicans. Okay, a Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary. This was released in 2018. The source is the Masoretic text, and it's Robert Alter's translation of the Hebrew Bible. You also have, we talked about this one earlier a little bit, the Holman Christian Standard Bible, which was released in 2004. Sources that they use is the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia Novum Testamentum Grace 27th edition and the United Bible Society's 4th edition, used by Southern Baptists. Okay, remember, this is where your Christian Standard Version is derived from. It's derived from this version here. Okay. The Inclusive Bible, which was released in 2009, it's a translation done by priests for equality of the Quixote Center. Okay. You have the ISV. This seems to be a popular one that you see in stores. It was released in 2011. You see, it's got no sources at all. So some of these Bibles, they're not using any manuscripts. Okay, and we're gonna get into why. Okay, some of these Bibles, they're not using any sources or any manuscripts at all to come up with their translation. And again, we're gonna get into why. The Jerusalem Bible was published or released in 1966, and it's from the original Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, with influence from the French La Bible de Jerusalem. And it says that this Bible was heavily influenced by the French original, and the commentary was a verbatim translation of the French. Okay, so and this is used by the Roman Catholics, the Protestants, the Anglicans, and liberal and some moderate Protestants. Okay, so now what you have next is your JPS, the Jewish Publication Society of America version, which is known as the Tanakh. All right, it's that one that reads from right to left. You kind of have to read the book backwards, kind of, sort of. All right, this was first released in 1917. This source that they use is a Masoretic text, and it's the Old Testament translation based on the Hebrew Masoretic text. It follows the addition of Seligaman Baer, except for the books of like Exodus to Deuteronomy, which never appeared in Bayer's edition. For those books, C.D. Ginsburg Hebrew text was used. This Bible version, it's now public domain due to copyright expiration, and this is primarily used in Judaism. I actually have one of these on my shelf as well. I don't use it as much, but I do have a copy of this Bible. Okay. You have another Tanakh, which came from the Judaica Press, which was released or published in 1963. They also used the Masoretic text, and this is more so for like Orthodox Judaism. Okay, there are different forms of Judaism out there. Okay, there are different sects. All right, so you also have the Julia E. Smith Parker translation, which was published in 1876. Their sources, manuscripts that they used were Masoretic text, as well as Textus Recepticus, and it primarily is used by Congregationalists. All right, so the King James Bible, all right, it's probably one of the most popular. It's probably the most popular Bible. Okay, King James Version Bible, aka the Authorized Version. It's first released in 1611. Okay, which is what a lot of us have. Well, a lot of us have a 1611 Bible, and then it got revised in 1769. Okay, so the manuscripts used for the King James Version are the Masoretic text, the Textus Recepticus, as well as the Tyndale 1526 New Testament, some like Erasmus manuscripts, and the Bayez 1598 Textus Recepticus. Okay, so these are the sources that were used in the translation of the King James Bible. All right. And of course, it's public domain pretty much everywhere you can use it. And you can see it's used by a lot of different people, by the Anglicans, the Puritans, the Evangelicals, Protestants, the Latter-day Saints, Eastern and Oriental Orthodox. And there are some congregations, notably independent / fundamental Baptists, that use the KJV exclusively. All right. So remember, I had brother Eric Justice on here the first time, and he dove all the way into how the independent Baptists run their church and how they do things, being that he's been there on the inside and he's seen some things. So make sure you guys go check out that episode as well, because they are what you will call KJV onlyists. Okay. You have the Knox Bible, which was released in 1955, which is they use the Vulgate with influence from the original Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and it was translated by Messenger Ronald Knox. I believe that's what MSGR stands for, and it's used by the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. So now you have the Lattimore Bible, which was released in 1933, and its source that they use is the Syriac Peshitta. Okay. You have the Leeser Bible, which is the Tanakh or the Old Testament, published in 1994, which was in their sources Masoretic text, and there's primarily used by the Orthodox Judaism, Conservative Judaism, and the Protestant Episcopal. Okay. You have the Literal Standard Version. This is one of the newer versions released in 2020. So this is a very new translation. And its sources are the Masoretic text, the Septuagint, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Textus Recepticus, and other New Testament manuscripts consulted. So this was published by Covenant Press. So it is the first English translation featuring continuous text blocks similar to the autographs. It also makes use of the caesura mark and the transliterated tetragrammaton. Okay, you also have a literal translation of the Bible, which was released in 1985. They use the Masoretic text and the Textus Recepticus or more specifically of the of the like Estaim in 1550 by J.P. Green Sr. You have the Living Bible, which was published in 1971, and it's basically the American Standard Version, but a paraphrase of it. Okay, again, we're gonna get into, because you have all these Bible translations, they fall primarily into 3 or 4 categories. Okay, and it's primarily used by the Evangelical Protestant Roman Catholic Church. Okay. All right. So next, you have the Living Torah and the Living Knock, or the Tanakh, which was published in 1994. Their source is the Masoretic text, and it's primarily used by the Orthodox Judaism. Matthew's Bible, first published in 1537, its sources are the Masoretic text, the Greek New Testament of Erasmus, and the Vulgate, the Luther Bible, and a 1535 Bible from France. You also have the Message Bible, which was released in 2002, and it's a fresh paraphrase, contemporary language by like idiom by Eugene Peterson, and it's used by traditional Protestants in the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. You also have the Mickelson Clarified Translation, which is a modern English dialect. Okay. You have one first published in 2008, then another one published in 2013, 2015, and 2019. So still kind of fairly new. Okay. And the sources that they use are the Clarified Textus Recepticus, including the Masoretic text, Textus Recepticus, the MCT Octuagint, and the MCT Brit Kadashah, with contextual dictionaries and concordances. So basically, it's a precise and unabridged translation of the Clarified Textus Recepticus, including Hebrew Old Testament to like English, Greek New Testament to like English, the Hebrew Old Testament to Greek Old Testament, the MCT Octuagint to English, and Greek New Testament to Hebrew New Testament, the MCT Brit Kadashah. And the translation methodology is the concept for concept, context for context, word for word, published in the literary reading order by Livingston Press. Okay. Next, we have the modern English version, released in 2014. Their sources are the Masoretic text and the Textus Recepticus, and it's what they did was they tried to revise the King James Bible. All right, and it's used by Eastern and Oriental, like Orthodox, the Roman Catholics, and the Protestant Church. Okay, next, we have the modern English Bible, released in 1969. No sources used, and it's also called the New Berkeley Version. The Moffat New Translation, published or released in 1926, and they use the Greek text of Herman von Soldin. Okay, names of God Bible. All right. So it's modern English and early modern English from the KJV. First one was released in 2011, then again in 2014, and it's basically the GW edition. The New Testament sources are the Nestle Aland Greek New Testament, the 27th edition, and the Old Testament sources are the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. The KJV edition uses the Masoretic text and Textus Recepticus. And it's by Anne Sprangler. The Names of God Bible restores the transliterations of ancient names such as Yahweh, El Shaddai, El Elyon, and like Adonai, to help the reader better understand the rich meaning of God's names that are found in the original Hebrew and Aramaic text. You have the New American Bible, which was first published in 1970, then revised. They revised the New Testament in 1986, and then they revised Psalms in 1991, used by the Roman Catholic Church. We also have the New American Bible Revised Edition, which was published in 2011. They use the Biblica Hebraica Stuttgartensia for the Hebrew Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls consulted and referenced. They used the Septuagint, also consulted and compared for Old Testament and Deuterocanonicals, the Latin Vulgate for some parts of the Deuterocanonicals, and the United States Bible Society's third edition cross-referenced to the 26th edition of the Greek New Testament for the New Testament. Okay. So this is the latest official English Catholic Bible translation released. All right. And there's an update that's supposed to be scheduled for release in 2025. So in about 4 years from now, the Catholic Church is going to actually come out with a new edition to this. Okay. All right, moving on. You have the New American Standard Bible, which was first released in 1971, then again in 1995, and they just recently revised it again in 2020. So they just did another revision of it. Okay. And their sources are the Masoretic text and the Nestle Aland text, right, which is primarily used in the evangelical Protestant church. You have the St. Joseph Catholic Bible, which is the St. Joseph edition, which modern English. It was first released in 2015 for the New Testament, and then the Old Testament came with it in 2019. Once again, the Roman Catholic Church. You see, the Roman Catholic Church, they put out a lot of translations. They put out a lot of different translations of the Bible. Okay, you have the New Century Version, which was published in 1991. You see, there's no manuscript sources used, and again, we're going to get into why. We have the New Community Bible, which was published or released in 2008, and it's a revision of the Christian Community Bible. Once again, primarily used in Roman Catholicism. The New English Bible, released in 1970. Their source is the Masoretic text and the Greek New Testament. Okay. All right. So now, we also have the New English Translation, or the NET Bible. Okay. This was first published in 2005, and the Masoretic text is used, as well as the Nestle Aland / United Bible Society Greek New Testament. All right, these are your sources for that translation. You have the NIRV. All right, the NIRV, which was first released in 1998. This is a new international version, so this is in NIV, but it's simplified. But it has simplified syntax, but loss of conjunctions obscures the meaning. And we see here the NIV does not have a manuscript source that is used. All right, you have also the NIVI, which is the inclusive language edition of the NIV, and it's just a revision of the NIV Bible that was published in 1996. And then, of course, you have the NIV here, which was first released or published in 1978. And these sources, the sources that are used here, are the Masoretic text, the Nestle Aland Greek text, and is based on Westcott Hort and Wise and Tischendorf from 1862, and is used by the Protestant Church. You have your New Jerusalem Bible, which was released in 1985, and it's from the original Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, with influence from the French La Bible de Jerusalem. All right. So it says an update to the 1966 Jerusalem Bible, which uses more extensive gender-neutral language. Once again, Roman Catholics use this. Okay. Now you also have your New Jewish Publication version of the Tanakh. They came out with another one in 1985, and it's, of course, the source is the Masoretic text. You have the New King James Version, released in 1982, and it's the Masoretic text is a source, as well as the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia from 1983, and they use the Textus Recepticus. This is used primarily. I mean, a lot of people do use the New King James Version. I have a New King James Version on my Bible, on my shelf, on my bookshelf. But it is primarily used by Protestants and Eastern and Oriental, like Orthodox faiths. You have the NLV, which is the New Life Version, released in 1986. The New Living Translation, released in 1996. used by evangelical Protestant Roman Catholics. You have the New Revised Standard Version, released in 1989, and it's a revision of the Revised Standard Version, and it's primarily used in mainline Protestant Roman Catholics. All right. So I know we're going through a lot of different translations, but again, there's a lot of different translations out there. Okay, so I wanted to be as thorough as I can be in sharing the information with you guys, so that way you guys can know about the different translations and regarding how they got translated. Okay, what were their influences? You have the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, which is modern English. This was released in 1950, which is the New Testament. And then then 10 years later, they came out with the single volume complete Bible. And then in 1984, it had reference edition with footnotes, and then they revised it in 2013, and then they just revised it a few years back again in 2018. They made it into a study Bible. So this is their sources are the Westcott and Hort's Greek New Testament, the Nestle Aland Greek New Testament, Hebrew J documents, as well as various other families of Hebrew and Greek manuscripts. So again, this is the one that's primarily used by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, this is one that's primarily used by them. You have the Orthodox Jewish Bible, which is released in 2002, used by Messianic Judaism. You have also an Orthodox Study Bible, which was released in 2008, and it adds a new translation of the LXX into an existing translation of the New King James Version in a single volume, used by Eastern Orthodox. You have the Quaker Bible, released in 1764. The sources that they used for that translation were the Masoretic text, as well as the Textus Recepticus. You have a recovery version of the Bible from modern English. It was first published in 1985. It had footnotes with it. Which were revised in 1991. They have a 1993 edition, where the New Testament is only there. You have a 1999 edition, which was a single volume complete Bible, text only. And you have a 2003 edition, which was a single Bible volume, complete with Bible footnotes. Okay. Sources that this Bible uses are the Biblia Hebraica, Stuttgartensia, which was revised in 1990. The revised 1990 edition, they used for the New Testament, they used the Novum Testamentum Graians, which was the Nestle Aland Greek New Testament, the 26th edition. So basically, it's a study Bible with a modern English translation of the scriptures from their original languages, comparable to the English Standard Version in the New American Standard Bible. All right. You also have the Revised New Jerusalem Bible, which was released in 2018 for the New Testament only, and then the complete Bible came the next year later in 2019, and it's a revision of the New Jerusalem Bible. All right, Roman Catholics use that. You have a revised version from 1885, so it's a revision of the King James Version, but with a critical New Testament text. Westcott and Hort from 1881, and Tringilis in 1857. Remember, the original King James Version uses Textus Recepticus. Okay, so you also have a Revised Standard Version, which was first published in 1946 with New Testament only, and then the complete Bible came in 1952. They use Masoretic text as well as Nestle Aland Greek New Testament. So again, these are the manuscripts that are used that influence these translations. Okay, and it's a revision of the American Standard Version. All right, mainline Protestant Roman Catholics use it. You also have a revised Standard Version of the Catholic edition. All right, first with the New Testament only released in 1965, and then a year later came the complete Bible. And it's there are no manuscripts that support this translation, and it's a ordering of deuterocanonical books of the Revised Standard Version to reflect traditional book order with other Old Testament books used by the Roman Catholics. You also have another RSV, a second Catholic edition that was released in 2006. And it's basically an update of the one that we just read before of this one. Okay. So it's basically just an update. All right. So what it does is it removes archaic pronouns, thee and thou, and accompanying verb forms, didst, speaketh. It revises passages used in the lectionary according to the Vatican document, Liturgiam Authenticam, and elevate some passages out of RSV footnotes when they reflect Catholic teachings. Okay. And then it just goes on and explains it more. Okay. So next we have the Revised English Bible, released in 1989. And it's just a revision of the New English Bible. You have the Scriptures. Okay. This is a popular one amongst the Israelite community, the Scriptures. This was first released in 1993. Then they revised it in 1998, and they did another one in 2009. Okay, so the sources for the Scriptures is the Masoretic text, Biblia Hebraica, and the Textus Recepticus. Okay, so it's basically a sacred names Bible. Okay, and it was translated by the Institute for Scripture Research, or the ISR for short. You have the Simple English Bible. They have one in 1978 and another one in 1980. And so it says this version is based on a limited 3,000 vocabulary and everyday sentence structure. It is also known as the Plain English Bible, the International English Bible, and the God Chasers Extreme New Testament. Okay. You have the Story Bible, released in 1971, and this is just a paraphrased translation. Again, I'm going to get into the different types of translations. Okay. As far as how they are categorized, how all these Bibles are categorized. All right. So you also have a early modern English Bible that was released in 1539, and it's a minor revision of the Matthew's Bible. Okay. Next, you have the JIV, which is the Jaws International Version, released in 2017. Rastafarians primarily use this one. You have the Thompson's translation that was released in 1808, and the sources that they use are the Codex Vaticanus, according to the introduction in the reprint edition by S.F. Pels of the Septuagint, but excluding the Apocrypha and of the New Testament. You also have today's new international version that was published or released in 2005. Their source is the Masoretic text, the Biblia Hebraica Cartensia from 1983, and the Nestle Alan Greek text. And it's basically just a revision of the NIV. You have the Third Millennium Bible that was released in 1998, and it's just a revision of the King James Bible. And you have the Tree of Life Bible, released in 2014. Their sources that they use were the Masoretic text, as well as the 27th Nestle Alan and the Novum Testamentum Graeus. So it is an Old Testament translation based on Hebrew Masoretic text. It follows the edition of Seligman Bayer, except for the books of Exodus to Deuteronomy, which never appeared in Bayer's edition. For those books, C.D. Ginsburg's Hebrew text was used, and it's used by Messianic Judaism. Okay. Getting through this list, gonna be done with the complete Bible translations in a moment. So you have the Tyndale Bible that was released in 1526, first with the New Testament, and then the Pentateuch came in 1530. Okay. So the Masoretic text is used. The like Erasmus' third new edition for 1522 is used. Martin Luther's 1522 German Bible was used. These are the influences for this translation of the Tyndale Bible. And it's an incomplete translation. Tyndale's other Old Testament work went into Matthew's Bible from 1537. Okay. So you have the Voice Bible, released in 2012. The heart of this project is retelling the story of the Bible in a form as fluid as modern literary works while remaining painstakingly true to the original Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic texts. You also have the Webster's revision, and it's just another revision of the King James Bible that was published in 1833. You have the Westminster version of sacred scripture, which was the first volumes of the New Testament were released in 1913, and then in 1915 and 1935, you have various volumes and editions of this version were published from 1913 to 1935. Okay, so it's Greek and Hebrew, and it was an early attempt to translate the Bible into English. It was an early Catholic attempt. Excuse me. It was an early Catholic attempt to translate the Bible into English from the original Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek languages instead of from the Latin Vulgate. It was partially translated and released in various versions with the Dohe rhymes, making up whatever books were not yet translated. And then you have the Woman's Bible, first released in 1895 and again in 1898. And it's a handwritten draft of commentary covering the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verses 21 through 25, concerning Adam and Eve. And this is from the Christian feminist faith. All right. All right. And we have, so again, these are in alphabetical order. You have the World English Bible released in the year 2000, and it's based on the American Standard Version, first published in 1901, which uses the Biblia Hebraica Stuccartensia, the Old Testament, and the Greek majority text New Testament. So it is in draft form and currently being edited for accuracy and readability. So this is actually in the process of being revised. All right. So you also have the Wycliffe's Bible released in 1388. That was influenced by the Latin Vulgate. Okay. And it's used by the Protestants, but excluding evangelicals. All right. You have the Young's Literal Translation, which was released in 1862. The text, the scroll, the sources used for that translation was Masoretic text and Textus Receptus. Okay. You also have the Scofield Reference Bible released in 1909, and it was compiled by Cyrus Ingerson's Scofield, published by Oxford University Press, and it develops dispensationalism ideas first proposed in the Darby Bible. This is used by the Protestants. Okay. All right, so those are all the complete English Bible translations. Okay, so now you also have some partial Bible translations where it just might be Old Testament only, or or they're not necessarily dealing with the New Testament at all, or they're only dealing with the Old Testament. You know what I'm saying? So you have some that are partial also. So I'm actually gonna go through those. It's not as many, but I'm just gonna go through those real quick. Okay, so now you have the Aramaic English New Testament. I actually own this one. I'm going to share more of that later. So I actually own this one. It's a modern English and Hebrew Bible with the divine names, and it was released in 2008 to between 2008 and 2012. And so it has its sources is the Aramaic New Testament text. So whatever texts that were available in the New Testament, like the Peshitta, which is a manuscript that was used to influence this primarily. This was released again in 2012, and it's a literal translation of the oldest known Aramaic New Testament text in the form of a study Bible, having extensive annotation, a historical practice of textual scholarship to assist understanding in context. In this case, the period of early Christianity. All right, so I'm not going to read too much more of that, but yes, I do have this translation right here. You also have the Bible in World English, which is a New Testament only Bible released in 1969. You have the Christian Scriptures. So it was in progress as of 2019, and it's a Greek English interlinear Bibles and public domains translations of the New Testament. All right. So it says no chapters or verses, including line, numbers, logical book order, footnotes for every Old Testament quotation in the New Testament, extensive index, and preface. Okay. So again, it's a Greek English interlinear Bible. Okay. You have the Messianic Aleph and Tav scriptures, which is the Tanakh Hebrew Bible and some of the New Testament. Okay. And it's in progress. You can buy some of these right now, actually. You can actually buy some of these copies right now, but they haven't completed it all the way through. Okay. And it's and they use the Masoretic text for the Old Testament. Okay, so the Messianic Aleph Tav scriptures is a study Bible which focuses on the study of the Aleph and Tav character symbol used throughout the Old Testament, the Tanakh, and both the Pentateuch and the prophets from the Messianic point of view. This English rendition reveals every place the Hebrew Aleph and Tav symbol was used as a freestanding character symbol believed by some Messianic groups to express the strength of the covenant in its original meaning. All right. So again, they have this one in volumes that you can actually get off of them on Amazon, but they're not cheap. Okay. You also have the Brenton English translation of the Septuagint. I also own a copy of this. This was released in 1844, and the source for this is the Septuagint manuscripts. All right. It is the Septuagint manuscripts. All right. You also have the Common Edition New Testament, released in 1999. You have the Confraternity Bible, which was released in 1941, and it's a revision of the Chandler revision of the Rhymes New Testament. All right. So the Old Testament was translated in stages with editions, progressively replacing books in the Challoner revision of the Dohe Rhymes. When complete, it was published in 1970 as the New American Bible. Okay. So now moving on, we have the Emphatic Dialogue, which is a New Testament Bible released in 1864. And the source for this was the Greek text recension by Dr. Johann Jacob Griesbach. Right. You have the 5 Pauline epistles, a new translation, and it came out first in 1908, and then it combined in one volume because I believe it was released in volumes in 1984. And the epistles of Romans, First, Second Corinthians, and First and Second Thessalonians was by Scottish scholar William Gunayan Rutherford. You have also God's New Covenant, a New Testament translation, released in 1989. You have the Grail Psalms, which was released in 1963, revised in 2008. The source for this is the French La Bible Jerusalem. It was translated according to the principles of Guillenau psalmody, used for liturgical worship by the Catholic Church. You also have the Kingdom New Testament, a contemporary translation released in 2011, and it's an eclectic Greek. All right, that's the source, eclectic Greek, and it's by N.T. Wright. Okay. You also have the Lexham English Bible. I also have this one as well, which was a New Testament with Old Testament in translation. All right. So this was first released in 2010. All right. And they use the SBL Greek New Testament. All right. You also have the Living Oracles, which is a modern English translation released in 1826, and is compiled and translated by Alexander Campbell, based translations by George Campbell, James McKnight, and Philip Doddridge, with reference to the 1805 critical Greek text by Johann Jacob Griesbach. So it replaces ecclesiastical terminology such as church and bishop and baptized with alternative translations such as congregation, overseer, and immerse. All right. Next, you have James Moffat's new translation, a new translation released in 1913, and its source is the Greek text of Herman von Soden. You also have Helen Barnett Montgomery centenary translation of the New Testament, released in 1924. You have a New Testament, a New Testament, a Bible for the 21st century, combining traditional and newly discovered texts, which is a New Testament and a selection of New Testament Apocrypha. So they have some New Testament Apocrypha writings in there, released in 2013. And it's a translation of all the books included in the traditional New Testament canon, with the addition of 10 new books, mostly coming from the Nag Hammadi manuscripts, which include the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Truth, the Thunder, Perfect Mind, the Odes of Solomon, the Prayer of Thanksgiving, Prayer of the Apostle Paul, the Acts of Paul, and Thecla, Thecla, the letter to Peter, the letter of Peter to Philip, and the secret revelation of John. This was edited with commentary by a biblical scholar, Hai Tusik. You also have the New Testament translation by Richard Lattimore, which was released in 1962 to 1982. It got compiled into one volume in 1996. Their sources are Westcott Hort, and the text is by Richard Lattimore. You have the Open English Bible, which was first published in 2010, but I think it's in progress to be revised right now. And then you have the 20th century New Testament, which is English, and you have the Westcott Hort, which is Greek, and you have the Leningrad Codex, which is the Hebrew manuscripts that are being used, and is aiming to be the first modern public domain translation with the New Testament edited from the public domain. The 20th century New Testament and the Old Testament newly translated. You also have Phillips' New Testament in modern English, which was released in 1958. All right, moving on, we have the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible, released in 1844, and it's a revision of the KJV. And it's also called Inspired Version by the Latter-day Saints. So basically, your Latter-day Saints are your I'm forgetting the name of them now. I can't even think of the name of them. Not Jehovah's Witness. Man, why can't I think of the name of them? Well, let me just move on. Okay, so you have your Third Millennium Bible, which is a new authorized version. New Testament, which includes the New Testament, Old Testament, and the Apocrypha, but it's just a revision of the King James Version. You have the 20th century New Testament, released in 1904. They use the Greek text of Westcott and Hort. And you have the unvarnished New Testament, which was released in 1991. The World English Bible and World Messianic Bibles. These are in progress, I believe. It says Old Testament available in print, and New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs, and they use the majority text. All right. So New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs available in hard copy printed format. So it's not done completely. It says printed Old Testament in progress for HNV, but entire WEB is available in print and online, and complete HNV Bibles available online. Right. You also have the WUS expanded translation, which was released in 1961, and that text source used is the Nestle Aland text. Okay. Now, you also have some translations that actually didn't get finished. All right. They did not get finished. All right. So I'm going to go over those real quick. You have the Eldheim, which is the book of Psalms. Right. This was around the late 7th or early 8th century. All right. So you see, most of these are in Latin. A majority of these are in Latin. Okay. So you also have the Psalters, 12 in total, including the Vespian Psalter and Edwine Psalter, which is from the 9th century. And its English glosses of Latin Psalters, you have King Alfred, which was the Pentateuch, including the 10 Commandments, possibly also the Psalms, released in 900. Circa 735, and then circa 900, and then you have the 9th century. You have Alfred the Scribe. This was supposed to be the Northumbrian interlinear glossa of the Gospels in the Lindisfarne Gospels was supposed to be released from 950 to 970. Farman, which was also a gloss on the Gospel of Matthew, and the Rushworth Gospels from 950 to 970. You have the Elfric, which was the Pentateuch, and the Pentateuch again is basically the Torah. Okay, the Pentateuch is basically like the Torah. You have the Book of Joshua, and you have Judges, which is the Old English, and it was released in circa 990. The Wessex Gospels, Old English, released in circa 990, and Kademon manuscript, and it's a few English Bible verses from 700 to 1000 AD. All right. You also have the Orlum, which are some passages of the Gospels of the Acts of the Apostles, circa 1150, which was Latin Vulgate. So again, a lot of these are Latin Vulgate, with the exception of this one I'm about to read next, a translation of Revelation, which was early 14th century. Roel, various passages, including some of the Psalms from early 14th century. You have West Midland Psalms, which was Middle English, early 14th century. You have the Godfrey Chaucer, the Parson's Tale, and the Canterbury Tales. So this was many Bible verses, circa 1400. Again, back again from the Vulgate. A 14th century biblical version consisting of a prologue and parts of the New Testament. This was circa 1400. The Life of Soul translation, which is the majority of text, consists of biblical quotations, circa 1400, which was the year. Nicholas Love Oakart, The Mirror of the Blessed Life of Jesus Christ. These are the Gospels paraphrased, which was circa 1400, and it was printed 6 times before 1535. And William Caxton's various passages was Middle English, and 1483 was the Golden Legend, and then 1484 was the Book of the Knight of the Tower, and this is also a French translation. This one right here is the Nicholas Love one. Is the Johannes D. Colibus OFM possible author Meditanus Vitae Christi in Latin. Okay. All right. So now those are all your translations. Okay. So now we're gonna let's deal with some translation types. Okay. So now first you have a literal translation. Okay. You have a literal translation. And a literal translation, also referred to as a word for word or formal translation. The goal of this type of translation is to stay as close as possible to the words and phrases used in the original language. Where possible, this translation will attempt to find a single English word to use for each Hebrew or Greek word in the original earliest available manuscripts. This kind of translation keeps the historical distance at a minimum and keeps the translator's opinion at a minimum. However, these kinds of translations can sometimes be more difficult to read. Often, a word for word translation from one's language to another, even among modern languages, is not as smooth and fails to communicate fuller concepts and ideas where there is no exact one for one exchange of terminology. When you ask someone who is bilingual with like English like English as a second language what a certain term means, you'll often find that they must explain the idea due to the lack of an accurate English word to describe the concept. Okay, so this is the source for this is BibleDo.life, so you guys can go there to check that out. Okay, so now for me personally, I try to stick to literal translations. I understand that they can be a little bit more difficult to read, but it again, this part right here, it says it keeps the translator's opinion at a minimum because they're strictly just trying to deal with, okay, what word goes with this word in the ancient language? What English word do we have to go for this? What English word do we have to go for that? It keeps it to a minimum. They don't try to reinterpret the text too much. Okay, they just try to deal with deal with formality and dealing with a literal language translation. Okay. Again, these are the Bibles that I primarily use. Okay. When I'm dealing with Bible translations, I prefer literal translations. That is what I prefer. Okay. Um, so now another translation type is the dynamic equivalent, which is also referred to as a thought for thought translation. The goal of this type of translation is to find precise equivalents for words, like idioms and grammatical constructions from the original languages. It attempts to keep historical and factual matters intact while updating language, grammar, and style to improve the communication of ideas into something easier to read and understand by the modern reader. While improving the communication of ideas and thoughts from the biblical text, it also increases the historical distance a bit and allows more room for the opinion of the translator to come through. In order to accommodate for this, we tend to see translation committees with a variety of theological backgrounds and a broad scope of experience come together in order to minimize the opinion in the best of these types of translations. So again, anything that comes outside of literal translation, I avoid because the translator's opinions are being slipped into the understanding of the text. Okay. So they're going thought for thought. Okay. So they are taking a verse and they're like, okay, well, we know historically what this is, but we need to kind of switch things up here because we think it means this, we think it means that. When we see this language here, we think it's actually saying this, we think it's actually saying that. Rather than try to deal with just literally translating the word, they get into a more thought for thought. And again, it creates historical distance and allows more room for the opinion of the translator to come through. Okay. So this is why they got to have committees and they got to sit down and they got to talk about, okay, well, hey, hey, translator, you're saying that this verse is translated like this, but we think it needs to say this. We think it needs to say that. So they actually sit down about that. Okay. But again, these are translations that I avoid. Okay. I avoid these type of translations. You also have the free translation, also referred to as a paraphrase. The goal of this type of translation is to communicate ideas from one language to another without trying to maintain the exact structure and word use. This form of translation intentionally increases the historical distance to bring the ideas closer to us as it relates to cultural relevance. They tend to be among the like, easiest translations to read and understand. Now, the downside of this type of translation is also an increase in historical distance. This increase means there is greater opportunity for the translator's opinion to creep in and present factual and historical differences from the original intent. The best translation of this type still take a great amount of care and work hard to account for this linguistic and cultural gap by applying solid exegetical and hermeneutical principles when communicating the ideas of the scriptures. So these ones I avoid altogether. I don't even touch these right here. Like these type of translations, I don't even touch. I think I got one on my bookshelf, which was that contemporary English version. I believe that's a more of a free translation. And again, the only reason why I have that one is because of the imagery of the melanated characters of the scriptures for my daughter to see. Okay, but other than that, I don't really deal with it too much. I mean, it has the apocrypha in there, so I'll read out of the apocrypha to kind of get to see, okay, what did they try to convey here? What did they try to convey there? But there are definitely some things in there where I'm like, yeah, yeah, not gonna be using this much. It's primarily for the like imagery. Okay, so these type of translations I avoid altogether. And you notice when we were going through that list, you had some you had some translations that were paraphrased translations. Okay, where they just reinterpret the entire verse according to the language that they speak. They don't deal with any Hebrew or Greek or anything like that. They don't. There's no support in that. They go and they see it and they like, oh well, it says this. Well, if we were to say it in our time, it would say this. Okay. So I avoid those altogether, me personally. Okay. So now this one comes from godsword.org. This is a different type of translation that they are introducing. Okay. It's not common among the other three that we just went over, but this is like a different one. Okay, which is called the natural equivalence. So this translation type, in short, it's the closest natural equivalence, concentrates on accurately translating the meaning of the original languages into natural English. Secondly, and equally important, it seeks to express that meaning naturally in a way that a native English speaker would have spoken or written. Finally, it expresses the meaning naturally in a way that is as close as possible to the way the source language expressed the meaning. So this type of translation, it kind of fall between the literal translation and the thought for thought. It kind of falls right in the middle. Okay. So they aren't so far on the thought for thought, because they do try to go meaning for meaning. They try to go meaning for meaning. Well, okay, well, if the verse says this, then it means this. So they don't lean too far on thought for thought, because they still understand um that the literal translations do have a part in how and what the verse is conveying. But and rather than do direct translations of words, they'll say, okay, well, we know the verse means this in the literal translation, so we're gonna reapply it with natural English to make it say this. Okay, so that's basically what the natural equivalence is. That's another translation type, and there's only one Bible that's a translation that's of this translation, which is the God's Word Bible, okay, or the GWB, the God's Word Bible. Okay, so now we're gonna look at some charts real quick. So which Bible should I get? So which Bible should you get? Again, I would lean more towards this side, the formal equivalence, okay, which of course is where you get your KJV from, you get your interlinears from, and again, you get the ESV and and the New Jewish Publication Society Bibles, the NRSV. I would avoid this side over here, your your Good News Bibles and stuff like that. I would avoid getting Bibles that are on this side. I would try to get Bibles that are more on this side. Okay. If you want more accuracy according to translation. Okay. Now I will say that no translation is perfect. There is no perfect translation, including the King James Bible. And I primarily use King James. Okay. But it's not perfect. It is not a perfect translation, nor is there any perfect Bible translation. There is no perfect Bible translation. Okay. So you really got to be in the spirit in order to understand what is being conveyed in the English in the language which we speak, which is English. Okay. You really have to be in the spirit, and you got to get your sources out, which is why, I promote the use of Hebrew and Greek, looking up words, what they mean, getting into the syntax, into the verb stems and how they were conveyed. I would get into all of that. Okay. Because again, we are relying on men to give us a translation based upon a rule of thumb that they were using. And the only rule of thumb I would trust to a degree is a literal translation rule of thumb, because they're literally trying to deal with the word for word translation. Okay. They're not really trying to reinterpret the verse too much. Okay. All right. So now this is a chart that comes from godsword.org. And this chart is actually used by a lot of different websites. Okay. So now we see how we got these four different um translation types. These four different translation types. And we see how over here in the blue, you pretty much got your the KJV, the ESB, the New American Standard Version, the New KJV, the TRB. And remember, I was telling you about the God's Word Bible was more so in the middle for the meaning for meaning. Then you have your thought for thought, which is your like NIV, the NLT, the CSB. Then you got your paraphrase, which is the NIRV, the CEV, and the MSG. All right. So these are just a few of them. Okay. Like I said, I more so stay in this blue section. I try to stay in this blue section when it comes to dealing with Bible translations. I really don't try to venture off into these translations over here too much. Like I said, I have this one here, the contemporary English version, but again, that's my daughter's Bible, and I got that primarily for the imagery. I didn't really get it too much for the text. Okay. Other than that, I primarily stay over here. Now, the Bible scholars say that the New American Standard Bible is the most accurate translation. That's what the Bible scholars say. The Bible scholars say that this is the most accurate translation, even more accurate than a KJV. That's what the Bible scholars say. Okay. Again, I personally use a KJV just because it's what I was raised on. I like the way it reads, and it is a word for word translation. So it can be trusted to some degree. Plus, you have a lot of King James Bibles that are available with your Strong's Concordance numbers for Hebrew and Greek, so you can look it up. Okay. All right, give me 1 second, you guys. I just got to plug in the laptop. Give me 1 second. Don't want to shut down on you guys. All right. So again, this is your Bible translation chart. And I personally, because which one is accurate, that's what we're talking about. I'm gonna stay over here in this section. I'm gonna stay over here. Okay. I used to kind of talk about the ESV, but after doing research and all that over the last like year or two, and I do see that other Hebrews use the English Standard Version. I don't knock it. I don't knock it too much. Okay. As long as the proper understanding is still being conveyed. But these over here, I'm gonna say no. All right. And pretty much your interlinear Bibles are going to be on this side as well. They're going to be on this side. Okay. They're going to be in this blue section. So interlinear Bibles are good. Okay. Like I said, word for word translations are the translations that I primarily try to use. I try to not even deal with these over here at all. Okay. So now here's another Bible translation chart from evangelicalbible.com. So you can kind of see here on this chart is how a lot of Bible translations got influenced. You see how the KJV, the KJV comes from a lot of these different ones. The 15th, the Coverdale, the Bishop's Bible, the Tyndale, the Great Bible, the Matthew Bible, the Geneva Bible, and so on and so forth. All right. They all kind of gave birth to the King James Version 1611. And then from there, the King James Version branched out into some of these other ones. Okay. And then also on this thought for thought side, you have these right here where they just kind of like, the NLT and all these things kind of like branched off, from other ones. So at some point, what it appears is that a lot of these older translations are more word for word, because again, that was the formal way of doing it. It was never about thought for thought. It was never about paraphrasing and all of that. The formal way of dealing with a Bible translation is to literally go word for word. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you should do. Go word for word, not thought for thought, meaning for meaning, or to try to paraphrase it. Okay, where you just get a free translation, you can just make it say whatever you want it to say. So now we do also understand that a lot of these Bibles, they primarily deal with Masoretic texts. Okay. Now Masoretic text is something that came much later. It does not predate the Messiah. Okay. It does not predate the Messiah. Again, a lot of our English translation Bibles are derived from Masoretic text, which comes after the death, burial, and resurrection of the Messiah. Okay. Now moving on. Okay, so now we have the prologue of the wisdom of Jesus, the son of Sirach. This is coming out of the Apocrypha in the King James version, Ecclesiasticus, in the book of Ecclesiasticus. It says, whereas many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and the prophets, and by others that that have followed their steps, for the which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom, and whereof not only the readers must needs become skillful themselves, but also that they desire that desire to learn be able to profit them which are without, both by speaking and writing. My grandfather Jesus, when he had much given himself to the reading of the law and the prophets and other books of our fathers, and had gotten therein good judgment, and was drawn on also himself to write something pertaining to learning and wisdom, to the intent that those which are desirous to learn and are addicted to these things might profit much more in living according to the law. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference, but they are spoken in their own language. For in the 8th and 13th year, coming into like Egypt, when Euergetes was king and continuing there some time, I found a book of no small learning. Therefore, I thought it most necessary for me to bestow some diligence and travail to interpret it, using great watchfulness and skill in that space to bring the book to an end, and set it forth for them also, which in a strange country are willing to learn, being prepared before in matters to live after the law. All wisdom cometh from the Lord, and it is with him forever. All right, so why am I reading this? Okay, I'm reading this just to simply show that even back then, when this was written, they understood that, hey, translating the Hebrew into another language is not easy, and you're gonna lose some of the force. You're going to lose some of the force that the Hebrew language provides, right? When you translate it into another language, because now you have to use different words to in an attempt to convey the same meaning. Okay. So again, this is why I promote the use of an word for word translation, or just simply use an interlinear. Okay. Just simply use an interlinear. That is what I promote. Okay. If you want to deal with biblical accuracy, to get to the closest that you can get to, deal with word for word translations. Okay. Deal with those with understanding the manuscripts behind what was used for those translations, and those also take a great deal of investigation as well. Okay. So you got to put in your due diligence if you want biblical accuracy about knowing which translation is correct. Because again, there's no one perfect translation. There isn't one. Okay. So let me continue on. So now, I remember I was going to talk about the translations that I use. So now, the translations that I use, of course, the King James version with the Apocrypha. I actually have this Bible right here. This is not a picture of my copy, but I do have this one. This one, you try to find it now, it's worth a lot of money. So that's why I'm holding on to this Bible for dear life, because it's worth a lot of money now. I don't think they have this one in print anymore, this particular King James version. But I pretty much try to get all King James Bibles with the Apocrypha. I also have a King James Keyword Study Bible. I have a Restored Names King James version, and I have some other versions of the King James version also. So again, I definitely try to make sure that I get these type of. I definitely try to use the King James version. It is the primary one that I read from in my reading, and in my studies when I'm putting lessons together, as you guys have already seen on here. So I definitely use the King James version. All right. So I also use the Brenton English Septuagint, okay, because I can actually look up Greek text, and I can go in and get the Strong's number for the Greek, okay. So in learning to read Hebrew, I have also been learning to try to read Greek, so that way I can understand things were translated using the Greek text. The reason why I use the English, the Brenton English Septuagint, which deals with the Septuagint text. This Septuagint text, whatever they were using to translate this, predates a Masoretic text. It predates Masoretic text. So this is why I use this, so that way I can kind of get more of an accuracy of what was actually being stated. Because in Masoretic text, there's some changes that got made too. And I brought that out last week in my video on what is scripture part 2 as it is written, when it talks about a body thou hast prepared me. That's not in the Masoretic text. That was left out, but it's in your Septuagint translation. And also the Septuagint manuscript, it is the most extant manuscript that we have to date. The most extant that we have to date. Okay. So this is why I use this. I also use the Lexham English Septuagint just to do some comparisons, between the two Septuagint translations. The Lexham English Septuagint, they use some other manuscripts, in support of how they came up with their translation. So I actually use this one as well. Okay. Next, I have the Hebrew Greek Interlinear Bible. Okay. I love using the interlinear Bibles. Interlinear Bibles. Actually, the one from Bible Hub, their Berean Interlinear Bible, they just released. So in book form, they only have the New Testament. But if you have eSword or MySword for Android, you can actually get the Berean Interlinear Bible both in Hebrew and in Greek for the Old Testament and the New Testament. And then they put verb stems there and everything. They really go all out in their interlinear. Okay. So it's definitely, interlinears are definitely good to use, because those are literal translations whenever you are reading them, and you also get the text there in Hebrew and Greek as well. You don't get things that predate Masoretic text, unfortunately, but you will get some of the manuscripts used, word for word. So that way you can know what got translated how, and what verb stems are there, what syntax is there, and so on and so forth. Okay. So definitely use this one. In this particular version of the Interlinear Bible, they use the Young's literal translation for the English. It's actually what they use in this Bible. Okay. The Young's literal translation, which is also a word for word translation. Okay. I also use this one. I spoke about it earlier. I actually use this because they deal with the Peshitta, okay, which is the Aramaic New Testament. So they use the Peshitta and they go word for word. They go word for word on certain translations, and it definitely helps to clear up a lot of different matters, especially concerning the virgin birth, baptism, the whole 3 days and 3 nights. It helps to kind of bring a better understanding to some of those things. Okay. And I also use the Israelite Samaritan version of the Torah. Okay. I recently got this one, and I've been diving into it a little bit more. So when I'm studying the Torah, I use this as well. So that way I can, because this is dealing with the Pentateuch. Okay. So I use this translation as well. And it's been helpful in actually learning what some things say in Torah when I'm reading it in the King James. Okay. I also have this one, the Sefer Bible. I have the second edition. I understand they're at a third edition. I actually have the second one, and I use this primarily for the Aleph and Tav study. That's what I primarily use it for, because I do study out the Aleph and Tav and how it's used throughout the Bible and everything. I'm actually currently going through the Torah to understand the Aleph and Tav and how it was used, starting from Genesis, walking it up one chapter at a time, one verse at a time, one word at a time, because the Aleph and Tav is actually not translated in your English Bibles as it should be. Okay, it's kind of just left there, and so I do study the Aleph and Tav out as well. Okay, and if there's any other translation that I need to have that I don't have in book form, I just simply get it on eSword. And as you see on eSword, you can use a slew of translations, whether they are word for word, thought for thought, paraphrase, whatever. You can get all those translations on eSword. You can get all of them. Okay. Now, I don't necessarily reference them too much, but if they're free, I'll take them. I mean, I'll take them if they're free. I'm just not gonna put my money into them. But they are there, and I primarily have them there so that way I can take a look at it and be like, man, look how badly they translate this verse. If I ever need to make a comparison, I have it available on eSword. Okay, and again, you can get a slew of Bible translations on eSword for free, in different languages. Okay, so this is why I use eSword. I like using eSword for this purpose, so I can get the many different Bibles that I have available. Okay. Um, all right, so we're gonna get ready to close this out. Isaiah 28 and 11. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to his people. So with foreign, so stammering can mean foreign, so foreign lips and another language. So foreign lips and another language will he speak to this people. Okay. That is what the prophet Isaiah has stated. All right. And that is it, y'all. So let me go ahead, get ready to come back over here. I'm ready to close this out. All right. So, let me see me go back up here. Let me check out the chat. All right. So just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Michael Paul. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Emmanuel. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Donald Mathis. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to Abaya Taylor. She says, "What is the Companion Bible?" You know what? I believe the Companion Bible. I believe they put two translations next to each other in there, and they try to make a comparison between the two translations. I forget which ones they put in the Companion Bible, but I believe that's how that one works. Is they put two English Bible translations into the text, and they try to make a comparison between the two. Okay, so let's see. So it says, is there a version called Tove? I've heard of it. I just didn't have it on my list. I have heard of it. Okay. All right. So textual understanding, stick with the KJV. It's easier to translate. I mean, like I said, I'm not a KJV onlyist, but it is the first one that I go to. It's definitely the first one that I go to. All right. Shabbat shalom to Orthodox more. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. All right. And then he says, he also textual understanding says, use the KJV version. Your ancestors were enslaved under the language of the people. The people spoke that enslaved us. This is explained in the KJV Bible itself. Okay. Um, he says, Michael Paul says, I would like to have the Tyndale version on my shelf. Actually, I was at an old bookstore at one of those like old bookstores where you could trade in books, and they had one there. I just didn't pick it up because, man, I don't have no room left on my bookshelf at all. I get so many books. I mean, I'm gonna have to just dedicate a whole room to just having nothing but books. All right. Yeah, Mormons. That's what I was like, man, what are the Latter-day Saints? It's Mormons. There you go. I don't know why I could not think of that. All right. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Vinny D. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. So again, like, share, subscribe, like, share, subscribe. Um, so he says, what is the spirit? First John 5 and 6 tells us the spirit is the truth, right? Because we got to deal with the spirit of truth. Okay. So so there it is, you guys. I have that there. Let me go ahead and send out the link, see if you guys wanna come on. Send the link out. Give me a second. All right, so the link is going out into the chat if you guys want to come on. I got about 30, 45 minutes or so we can dialogue. If you guys want to come on and check out and dialogue on anything about translation stuff like that, just remember, if you guys do come on, to keep it clean. Debate Talk for You does not condone any foul language, any disrespect, or any name calling. All right, so let's maintain the integrity here on Debate Talk for You. All right. If those things do occur, we'll have to remove you from the platform immediately. All right. So if you guys want to come in and chat for a little bit, we can do that. We got about 45 minutes before I got to get out of here. So that way, Vinny, if he's going to be coming on to do the Sabbath reading, you guys can check him out at the next top of the hour, which will be 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, uh, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So again, if you guys wanna come on and discuss these Bible translations, you guys can. You guys are more than welcome to, and we can just talk about it. All right. Because you guys may have some information that I don't know about, concerning certain manuscripts and things that were used. Because I know other brothers they take a deep dive into the manuscripts, even more so than I do. Okay. Again, this is just a general overview to just try to answer the question about which Bible is accurate. And again, none of them are 100% accurate. None of them are. But if you're gonna deal with a Bible translation, deal with word for word. That is my personal opinion. Deal with a word for word translation, because the translator's opinion is at a minimum in those translations. Okay. They strictly just try to deal with the words and the meaning, and what word fits the Hebrew word or Greek word, okay, into English. That's what they try to do. All right. So sometimes they may have to kind of rewrite the verse a little bit, but just to kind of make it fit grammatically into English language. But again, I mean, not rewrite, but reorder the words within a Bible verse in order to make it convey more sensibly into English. But again, their opinions are at a minimum in those types of translations. And so being that the scholar said that the New American Standard Bible, they're saying that that's the most accurate one. I'm compelled to check it out. I'm compelled to, like, man, what are they talking about? Let me go see what they're talking about in this translation, because they're saying that it's even more accurate than the King James version. So I'm like, let me go check it out. But I still understand that a lot of these translations, including King James, they are based off of Masoretic text when you deal with the Old Testament. And with the New Testament, it's based off of Textus Recepticus. They're not dealing with the Peshitta. Okay. So and understanding that, it is why I still try to go even further. Like I said, dealing with a Septuagint and so on and so forth, and Dead Sea Scrolls and things of that nature. Okay, I do try to deal with those texts, so that way I could try to get more of a translation accuracy when it comes to reading the Bible. All right. Um, Give it a couple more minutes before we get ready to shut down. So again, the link is in the chat if you want to come on. Once again, the link is in the chat. All right. You guys see the information scrolling down at the bottom. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, donate to the platform. And for any of those businesses that are showcased in the description section, make sure you guys support those businesses at the appropriate time. Okay. And check out Yaz Manna, Survive We the People University, as well as Shalom Care. All right, make sure you guys check those out. Okay. So once again, like I said, I just wanted to kind of come on here and give you guys the information regarding Bible text, just to kind of wrap up the whole what is scripture, because now that we know what scripture is, now it's like, well, what translation do I use? So just wanted to kind of share that information so that way you guys can be in the know here on Debate Talk for You. I've never heard anyone on Debate Talk for You actually go and take a deep dive into Bible translations like that. Maybe with certain things they have, but and I've heard some points brought out in some debates that I've heard on Debate Talk for You, but I've never actually heard no one take an in-depth dive into Bible translations and just share the information, for people to know. All right. And I took majority of the time just going over the many Bible translations. I mean, the complete Bible translations, that was 104. That was 104 Bible translations. And then you got the incomplete ones where they only dealing with the New Testament. Okay. So, and you have some that just weren't even finished. Okay. So you have a lot of translations that have come over the course of time since the 1300s, where they get translated into English. That have come since 1300. Hundreds of translations have come, and more are coming. But What we need to do as Israelites is we need to develop a committee where we are getting these manuscripts and we are analyzing them for ourselves, so that way we can give the proper understanding on what these scriptures are saying. Okay. That is what we need to do. Okay. So I want to say Shabbat Shalom to the word, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. All right. So again, that is what I'm petitioning for. All right. Through Israelite Studies, which is the organization that I'm trying to formulate. Through Israelite Studies, I'm trying to get a committee of brothers together. It doesn't matter if you got your own congregation or camp or whatever. I just want to get a committee together where we can start dealing with this text so we can start translating this stuff accurately. All right. So we need people who are into the language, who know the Hebrew very well, who know the Greek very well. And I want to have a committee developed where we can start to say, hey, we're gonna take this back because the Most High is dealing with us in the spirit. He's dealing with his people in the spirit, and we need to be able to go into these manuscripts, whatever is available to us, and try to get the proper understanding of what these scriptures are saying. Because through these translations is how it has aided in many doctrines being pushed. It's aided in many doctrines that have been pushed over the course of time through Christendom and so on and so forth. All right. Yes, a council of the Israelites. Yes, that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to get a council or a committee of well-studied brothers, so that way we can have, these meetings with regard to the Bible, the biblical text itself, and what it actually needs to say. All right, when we're dealing with the manuscripts. And again, I know we don't have access to all the records, but whatever we can get our hands on, we need to be able to sit down, go into the think tank, and come out with a Israelite Bible translation. I understand you have Israelites who come out with their own King James version and all that, whatever. I understand that. But we need to actually do what the scholars are doing. We need to be scholars in our own right, and we need to be a nation, and we need to do this because these are our records. So why are we allowing the hands of other nations to interpret our records? We need to interpret our own records. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For edifying us as a nation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to shut this down. Make sure you guys check out Vinny at the next top of the hour for the Sabbath reading. I just want to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh and the authority of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, for allowing me to come on here and to be able to disseminate this information to you all. And Most High willing, you guys got some understanding and the edification went forth. Okay. Once again, special shout out to Sal Showtime for allowing me to come on here and to do this. Next week, we're going to go with episode 30 of the Sabbath meal. And then after that, I'm gonna be taking a little bit of a break because I want to actually work on some other projects. So I gotta do my shows 10 at a time on here. So that way I can have time to do my other projects. Okay. So I'll be taking a little break after next week, after episode 30. I'll come back with episode 31 after a couple of weeks, and I get some things going while I'm away from Debate Talk for You. And then I will be back, Most High willing. Okay. I'll dive more into those details about what I'm going to be working on in episode 30 before I take my break. Okay. So again, one more episode 30 next week. And then I'll be taking my break here on Debate Talk for You to work on some other things that you guys will have the announcement for. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. May Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. I bid you all a farewell and Shabbat Shalom.